I've got to say, one of my favorite parts about this whole YouTube job is scouring the internet to find some of the most interesting real estate topics to cover in my next video. Not only is it super fascinating and inspiring to hear about Elon Musk building underground tunnels, developers in New York taking out billions of dollars of loans to develop real estate, or a record being set for a $28 million spec build like 20 minutes away from where I live, but it's also just really fun to stay up to date on all of these topics and then throw together these videos for all of you guys to enjoy. This was another one of those days where there were just too many to pick from, so in today's episode, we're gonna run through some of my favorite real estate related headlines that have hit this past week. I hope you guys have as much fun with this as I do. First up, we've got Elon Musk's Boring Company talking about the Hyperloop project again, which is basically just a network of transportation tunnels built under major cities. This whole concept started back in 2013, where Elon Musk came up with this idea to dig a bunch of tunnels connecting a bunch of parts of the United States, and then the plan was to send passengers and cargo through these tunnels in little pods at a rate of like 700 miles an hour. Pretty awesome concept. I mean, if you think about traveling from where I live in Arizona out to the beach in California, that would take about 6 hours in a car. It would take about 2.5 or 3 hours if you traveled by plane when you consider the drive time to the airport and security lines and stuff like that. But the goal of the company is not just to get people places faster, but it's also to free up congestion on the streets. Elon Musk put a tweet out a couple of weeks ago where he was responding to the world of statistics, where they pointed out the cities with the worst traffic in the world. He said that from a physics standpoint, the Hyperloop is the fastest possible way of getting from one city center to another for distances less than 2,000 miles. He also points out that the underground tunnels are immune to surface weather conditions like subways, so you wouldn't have to worry about stuff like hurricanes. It's hard telling how realistic it is that we'll see a Hyperloop at any point in the near future, but Musk is starting to build shorter Tesla tunnels in Vegas, and the Boring Company just raised another $675 million last month. So maybe this Hyperloop thing is something that we would see in our lifetimes. But don't hold your breath. The Real Deal just put out a report on the 10 largest Manhattan real estate loans recorded in April, and in total, they add up to a staggering $1.7 billion. First up, we have HSBC along with hedge fund advisors who received a big loan to refinance their first position debt on the office building at 1540 Broadway in Times Square. This was a cash out refinance. The company withdrew $96 million on this loan, which means that their new first position lien on the property is $590 million. It's not uncommon for us regular homeowners to do a cash out refinance to maybe lower our interest rate or pay off some debt or put in a swimming pool.
With this bonus check, I'm putting in a swimming pool.
But to own an asset where you can cash out nearly $100 million in one lump sum, wow. Another notable property with some new debt is at 1 Times Square. This is where the New Year's Eve ball drops every year. JP Morgan Chase loaned $290 million on this building. It sounds like the developer is in the process of doing a big $500 million renovation here. What's crazy about these big high rises in New York City is that many of them were built nearly 100 years ago, so developers are constantly needing to sink new money into them every couple of decades just to bring them up to modern standards. Last up on our list that we're looking at today is a $63 million loan from Madison Realty Capital. They gave this loan to the Shetrit organization who bought 275 Cherry Street, and they plan to build a 1,300 unit residential community here. Getting into massive debt is just kind of part of the game when you're in the real estate business in New York City. I've taken out quite a bit of debt over my lifetime on my real estate projects, but man, I cannot imagine going hundreds of millions of dollars into debt on a single deal. Next up, we've got Architectural Digest, which put out an article featuring 9 homes that have totally shocking designs. Of course, I had to click on this one just to see how shocking these designs really are. To top the list off, there's this developer out of Greece who built a series of marble pools out back scattered along the shoreline of his home. And apparently each one of these swimming pools were handcrafted by locals. They didn't use any machinery to make them, and they're all built out of marble. Zooming over to Florida, we've got a house on Miami Beach's Palm Island. This one has a 460-foot floating atrium that connects you to the entrance of this modern home. It's a super cool look, although I would be a little bit worried about somebody falling into the water at some point. But what an awesome way to walk up to your house on these limestone blocks and with these palm trees and passing this statue. So cool. Next up on our list, we have to head over to the West Coast in Marina Del Rey. Here we've got a house that has this cool and cozy conversation pit with some great views, and above it is a rooftop swimming pool. First of all, I'm always impressed by features like this. I cannot imagine the engineering that goes into putting a swimming pool above somebody's head like that. But even more interesting, this seating area that we're looking at actually used to be a huge shark tank. They say that the new owner was not down with a 10,000 gallon shark tank, and so one of the first things that she did to the house was convert the shark tank into this hangout area. I love sharks, but not gonna lie, I think if I was her, I would have converted this shark tank into a conversation pit too. Okay, so now we need to head over to the Caribbean for a quick update. This is on Jeffrey Epstein's islands that were listed for sale back in March. Both of them just had a price reduction. I reported on this story when it first came out. Great St. James and Little St. James were originally listed as a set for $125 million. And back then, I predicted that they would not be selling anywhere near that price, partly because of the history of what happened on those islands, but also just because the islands seem way overpriced compared to other islands for sale in this region. Well, it turns out I was right on this one. The price was just dropped by 15 million bucks. Now the combined list price is $110 million, and they're offering the islands separately as well, which they weren't doing originally. So if you want either one of them for 55 million, that's an option too. Personally, I still think that both of these islands are way overpriced. I don't have a crystal ball, and let's be honest, I don't know a ton about the value of private islands in the Caribbean, but if I had to guess, I'd think that these places will ultimately end up trading at about 25 million bucks a piece. Over here in my neck of the woods, I have to show you guys the most expensive home that has ever sold in Arizona's history that just closed the other day. It's a 21,000 square foot mountaintop property sitting on 4.5 acres nicknamed Altitude, and it's in one of the ritziest parts of town called Silverleaf. The house ended up selling at $1,300 per square foot, which is actually right in line with other luxury homes in this Silverleaf area, and then another competing area called Paradise Valley. It's weird having lived here as long as I have and having invested in real estate out here in Arizona as long as I have, because I swear just 3 or 4 years ago, it was odd to see homes that were listed above $10 million, and here we are having homes sell almost at $30 million. It blows my mind. The developer was this group called Mast Luxury Homes, and Mansion Global reported that he bought this place back in 2016 for just $5 million, and he spent the past 4.5 years building it out prior to listing it for sale. If I had to guess, I would say that this developer probably put about $12 or $13 million into the build of this house. So with the price that he paid for the land, that means he has somewhere around 20 million bucks into the deal. That means that at a $28 million sale, after he pays his commissions and closing costs and stuff like that, this guy made almost 7 million bucks on a single house. On a more relatable note, we have a house for sale that some outlets are calling the world's loneliest house, which just had another price drop. This little 540 square foot 1-bedroom house comes with its own tiny private island called Duck Ledges Island. Not a big house, it's only 1 bedroom, and with no trees, it has great views of the surrounding water and wildlife with a couple sandy beaches on either side of the little island. It's actually finished pretty nicely inside, and according to the listing, the cottage is solid construction, which, as far as I can tell, seems accurate. And you can see some electrical fixtures in some of these pictures as well, which means that there is power here, which is great. But it's gonna be a bit of a trek to stock up on your groceries. The house is located off the coast of Maine in this body of water called the Wahoa Bay. It doesn't look like much of the area on the mainland is heavily developed. You've got some restaurants, a post office, some grocery stores, and some schools over in the Beals area or the Jonesport area. So if you do need anything, it looks like it's probably gonna be just a 15 or 20 minute boat ride away. As much as I love to think that it would be awesome to live somewhere like this or at least vacation somewhere like this, I'm not gonna lie, I think that it would freak me out just a little bit being that isolated out in the middle of the bay. As always, there is plenty more to talk about, but that's all we have time for in this episode, guys. If you enjoyed the video or any of these headlines today, hit that thumbs up button down below before you go. That really helps the channel out a lot. Plus, I say it every time, but for anybody new around here, click that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. I'm putting new videos just like this one out every week, but that's all I've got for you guys this time. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see ya.